Hi everyone, it's Wisdom Wednesdays. I am Ariana Newcomer, Dove Oracle Priestess, biofield tuning practitioner, and spiritual mentor. My topic today is stories, our stories. And these are some of the lessons from the field that I've encountered in tuning the biofield. Our stories, the stories that we absorb, the stories that we grew up with, the stories that we learned from parents, from books, from movies, from religions, from school, uh, they define us in very, very fundamental ways, and they become really unconscious. And we can't really come into transformation, come into really full, deep healing, have the cultural transformation that we need until we really can look at our stories. Is this true? Is this a truth in like capital letters, or is this a story? And so many of the things that we hold as truth are actually just stories. And what's fascinating to me, what I love about biofield tuning, is that the tuning fork in the field can actually illuminate those stories. That the tuning fork changes its sound, it changes the way it is vibrating, it clues us in to those distortions and turbulence that are caused by the stories that really aren't true. So now I'm not claiming that I know what the truth is all the time. Okay. That's something that's very hard to discern. And because our perceptions as humans are often so limited, we have to be really careful in deciding that we know what the truth is. And being willing to look and being willing to examine, okay, is this a story or is this a deeper and higher truth? And those deeper and higher truths have a different resonance in the field. They feel better. They're more harmonious. The energy flows. It's not frozen, stuck, distorted, static. So this is a wonderful way that the tuning forks really can help us. And so sometimes our stories are ones that we tell ourselves after things that have happened to us in our lives. And in biofield tuning, we're working through the timeline of our lives, kind of like tree rings. And a lot of the stories that come up in the field are personal stories, but some of them are also very deeply related to and based in cultural stories. And I was working with a client the other day who grew up in Catholic school and had a traumatic experience as a highly sensitive kid, going to school and being told by the nuns that the devil is going to get you if you do anything bad, or if you don't do what we tell you and you're going to hell. If you don't do what we tell you, if you don't do what we say the correct way to be is as a Christian in the world. And so she was traumatized. She was traumatized by that. And that story came up in her field as distortion, as turbulence, as just chaotic energies in her field. And the tuning fork can help to smooth those out. And it's not a magic bullet. It doesn't happen only once in one session. These things are gone. Usually, sometimes that's true, but oftentimes it will take multiple sessions over time to really bring that area into harmony. So we're dealing with a lot of stories right now, and a lot of our closely held stories are the things that can make us react the most strongly to things that we think don't fit with our story about how things are. And as you know, if you've been following me for a while, one of my mentors is Riane Eisler, and she is, as far as I'm concerned, one of the avatars on the planet right now. And her work with partnership, the partnership paradigm moving us into partnerism as opposed to any of the other isms, capitalism, socialism, communism. Let's try partnerism. Another person that I've been reading a lot recently is Charles Eisenstein. And he also talks about these ideas of separation as kind of at the fundamental level of why we haven't been able to create the change that we need. And so coming into having more connection, being more caring about each other and the earth are the ways that we come into our new story. And he's really talking about the similar kind of thing as Rianne, that partnerism, that being connected, that having power with each other instead of power over. Somebody doesn't have to be the dominator and somebody doesn't have to be inferior, that there's a lot more connection between humans and between humans and nature. And some of the stories that we need to be really careful of, I'm just going to tick off some of these. Human nature is inherently violent, so there's nothing we can do about it. It's actually not true. If you look at some of the re-examinations of archaeological history, like in Rianne's book, The Chalice and the Blade, and other books that have done a similar thing when God was a woman, we had peaceful partnership cultures in past time. So it's the fact that we've had this dominator culture in Rianne's language doesn't mean that humans are inherently, it means that we are not doomed. It means that we are not inherently violent. We are not inherently always in competition, always trying to dominate. Another thing is men are naturally dominant and violent. Nurturing, sensitivity, and caring are feminine characteristics. Men are logical, women are emotional. So we all know that those limited categories are not the truth. There are many highly sensitive men who know how to be emotional and to talk about their emotions responsibly. There are many women who are extremely logical, and many nurturing men, so that's not the truth. There also is the story winning is the most important thing. But that's a part of the dominator culture, and it's not the truth again. The free market is the best way. We are seeing abundant evidence that the supposed free market has caused an incredible amount of damage, and it's not the best way for humans to be in the world. Women's work doesn't have value. Profit is more important than our health, our climate, our environment, our children, education, et cetera, et cetera. That is demonstrably untrue. The only value in trees is when they're cut down. This is what some people actually say. They look at a forest and they think, oh, bored feet. That's the only value this place has. The trees in themselves as living beings don't have any value. And there's more and more evidence coming to light that this is absolutely not the case. The only value in earth is when it's mined. It's when we take the stuff out of it, when it's covered with roads and buildings or being used for farming. Alternative medicine is fake. More and more evidence coming to light that a lot of alternative medicine practices are extremely valuable. Only things approved by the FDA are safe. Well, let's look. How many people have died from prescription medications each year? Thousands. How many people die from herbs and vitamins and supplements each year? It's usually this many. Now, we also have stories that I have talked about before, and part of my work is working with our voice, with voice stories. So we have stories that affect how we allow ourselves to speak and sound. Stories like, and these are also cultural and personal stories. So the voice of authority is male. It's not safe to speak up and speak out. So people who have lived with an abusive spouse or parent or walked on a very volatile parent at home, it's not safe to speak up and speak out, but that story becomes absorbed and internalized. And then even when that volatile parent or abusive spouse is no longer present, we still don't speak up and speak out because that story is still alive within us. I'm not worthy. I can't change. Big boys don't cry. Men who listen to women are weak. People who compromise are weak. That's a big thing in politics right now. Other races are inferior to mine. I'm not racist, so racism isn't my problem. The devil and hell are waiting for you. If you do anything we say is bad. That's the story that came up in my client's field just the other day. The government's out to get me. The establishment is always wrong. Private business can do anything better than government, which has also now demonstrably been shown not to be true. You can never trust the government. This is a big story that's been put out for many, many, many years. And the result is that we now have a government that's being taken apart. So it really can't do what we need it to do, what we even need it to do. All politicians are corrupt. My vote doesn't matter. Those are not the truth, but those are closely held stories for many of us. Those who don't follow my religion are damned or doomed. My religion is the only right religion. A lot of religious teachings. Women must submit to men. Being gay is a sin. Women are responsible for original sin, the story of Eve. This was another story that came up in a client's field too. Humans have dominion over the earth. This is a religious teaching that has unfortunately resulted in the climate issues that we're having now. It's part of what, but also the profit over everything. I'm spiritual, therefore I can't pay attention to politics. It's just like, I've talked about spiritual bypassing in the past, and to me that is spiritual bypassing. I'm spiritual, so I'm separate, I'm somehow removed, I'm better than, and I don't have to contribute to my community. I don't have to take care of my community by paying attention to the politics and by using my voice and my vote to make a difference. I succeeded, therefore anyone can. Individualism, this is an American thing. Individualism is better than being together in community and doing things together. I have to do it all by myself. It's an illusion. Anybody who believes I did it all by myself is not taking into account the assistance that they had from teachers, from parents, from books, from, their community. And the story that others are dangerous and need to be stopped, driven out, defeated, killed, any other gangs, other tribes, other races, other religions, those from other countries, those from other parts of the same country, women, LGBTQ people, elites, the poor, fans of other teams, other political parties, and so on and so on and so on. The story of othering, that we have to be better than somebody else. That's the dominator culture again. That we're separate and that only my little tribe is okay, my little group is okay, and all the others are dangerous and to be feared and to be shunned and to be gotten rid of somehow. That isn't a true way to live on Earth at this time. We need to be able to come into this greater connection, partnerism, in order to have a world we can continue to live on. So when we change our stories, then we can transform ourselves and transform our world. And I have worked with hundreds and hundreds of people, mostly women, helping them transform their voice stories and some of these other inner stories, like I'm not worthy, I don't belong, I'm not safe. Another story that comes up in the field too is that this happens at the outer edge of the field, comes up at the birth area. I didn't really want to be here on the planet. That shows up in the biofield too. And so I have seen when we can just uncover these stories and illuminate them, with love and compassion, not the self-judgment, not the inner critic, not the, you know, somebody with a ruler smack on your wrist or something. Self-love and compassion are the way to transformation. They're the way to transforming any of these stories. We're not bad and wrong because we believe the stories that we grew up with. However, if we really want to make ourselves whole and come into that greater coherence and inner alignment, we do have to look at them. We do have to look and see, okay, look with curiosity. Is this a good story for me to keep? Or is this a story that is not helpful? This doesn't serve me. So what would serve me instead? And we get to do that in biofield tuning when we come into those stories, those places in your biofield where the energy of the story is held. A lot of times they're like vibrating like this. Your body mind can notice then, oh, the tuning fork is illuminating that area of distortion in my field, and then my body mind is going to tune it using the harmony of the tuning fork. And we can hear and feel when that changes. And then we can see, okay, what story is going to be useful and helpful for me to use instead of that one that was causing a lot of distortion. So we then come into this greater inner alignment and coherence, and we begin to radiate out that coherence and radiate out harmony instead of radiating the chaos and the distortion and the static and the misalignment and of all those old stories that really weren't serving us. We can come in because in our essence, in our whole self, we know that those stories that are causing the distortion are not true. So our own essence knows and can use the tuning fork and use the conversation that we can have during the session to actually start to begin to release the hold that that story has on us, that is unconsciously driving us and making us get triggered and do and say things that we don't really want to do or say, that we know in our heart of hearts that are not what we really want to be doing or saying. The biofield tuning is a just lovely, lovely way of encountering those stories, treating ourselves with love and compassion, and then coming to this new level of understanding, of calmness, of centeredness, of joyful aliveness. And as I said, you begin then radiating out coherence and harmony. And boy, do we need more coherence and harmony in our world right now, with things pulling apart. And Eileen, who's the founder of Biofield Tuning, talks about this as there's a lot of entropy in the world, which is the sort of pulling apart of things. And when we're tuned, we come into syntropy. And we can radiate out syntropy, which is that connectedness, that coherence, that alignment that can help us transform our cultural story into one of partnerism, partnership, greater connectedness, greater wholeness, greater joy, greater responsibility, and dealing with nature in a way that is positive, that can allow us to still continue to live on this beautiful planet. Respect, connection, partnership, partnerism. So I invite you to try Biofield Tuning Session. I'll put a link in the comments where you can get hold of me and talk with me about having a session for yourself to bring more of that inner alignment and coherence, to illuminate those stories. There are distortions in your field that aren't working for you, that aren't serving you, and move into different perspective, different energetics, different way of being that is more joyful for you. See you next time.